sits on the board of Uber UK, Climate Change Network, Chapter Zero, Affinity Water, and Rank Group PLC, to name a few, and is chair of Care Social. I'm proud to host Susan Hooper today. Susan, it's very rare to see somebody who has been on chair of varied boards, and you started your career as a board of directors since 1999. How do you define success? And what is the most defining moment of your life thus far?
Thank you, Payal, and thank you for inviting me to talk about my experience, and I do hope that it is of value to others. I think success is a very personal thing. You have to. My definition of success isn't necessarily what others will be, but it's a worthwhile thing trying to understand what you feel success would look like. So in my mind, for me, it's about having a purpose and really being able to focus on it, deliver on it, live it, and also pay the bills by it as well. I mean, that's a reality, and then being recognized for that. I don't know if you ever reach success, but that's what you work for. That's what you work towards, I would say. Yeah, I think that's it. But it's very, very personal. What does that purpose mean to someone? That can either be work related, it can be living or lifestyle related, it could be money related. That wasn't necessarily for me, although money has always been like having a grade in university. Like if I get paid more, that means I did well. So yes, it did play a role in that. I think the defining moment, interestingly enough, and I just have to take a step back and explain a few things, is I have two now grown-up children, boys, and when I was much younger, I brought them up. Really, for the past 20 years, I brought them up on my own. And for me, my world and purpose was very much children and work for a good 20 years. And there came a time, however, when I realized that they would be moving out and going on to university. And this is success. This is success when you're having kids, that they are independent enough and clever enough to get into what they want to do and are moving on and out. But for me, this left a devastating hole in my life, because as I just explained, my life was work and children. And at the end of the day, when the last went away, all I had left was my work. And that was nowhere near enough to make me feel content and happy with the way I was living my life. So for me, that was an incredibly poignant moment when I came to realize it's not all about work. Work's really, really important for me, and I love it. And I love being able to create things, work with different people, go different places. But it was not everything for me. And I had to work very hard to rebuild a balance without trying to pull the boys back home again, in a way that fulfilled me as much. So I think, oddly enough, the defining moment in my life so far has been when my two sons left home.
Ignoring difficult people is not an option if you want to succeed. How have you dealt with someone in a position of power who wants you to fail?
I guess with a bit of bullheadedness, because in all honesty, it hasn't happened that much. Or you could just say that I didn't notice it, because I'm sort of very set on what I want to do and what I need to do. But I think there are two responses to that. If you can, and you may not be able to, is just avoid them. I mean, you're probably not going to change their mind. For whatever reason they have this point of view or are doing something rather negative, I personally believe it's a waste of time and energy to try and even convert them. But if you can't avoid them, my recollection of a situation where that has gone well is that it was the time when I moved into an operational hands-on job. And I was able to be measured by the numbers, the outcomes of what I did. And that became irrefutable. You know, the numbers don't lie. If you're in the role delivering those numbers, no one can say it wasn't you who did that. So I think for me, my career changed much more dramatically when it was a discussion about the numbers as opposed to the methods or, you know, the approach or, you know, the way we did it. And after I had a number of successful years, according to the numbers, the reputation stuck, and it becomes much harder to have people oppose you or try and block you when you've got a track record of having delivered what you were meant to deliver. So I think I would, my gut always says, you go around those blocks, don't try and go through them.
I agree with you. Corporate governance practices are a reflection of the value system. What are your thoughts on if diversity leads to good corporate governance practices, or does good corporate governance leads to more diversity?
I think it's a bit of both, but the good corporate governance, in my mind, has accelerated the breadth and degree of diversity in a way that simply talking about diversity or letting it happen has not. There's no question that if I look back, I think you mentioned I had my first non-executive role in 1999, and there were very, very few women. Was it 99? I think it might even be earlier than that. It doesn't matter. It's a long time ago. And it was only because there were a few individuals who wanted a diverse board. No one was telling them to do it, and they didn't have to do it. They weren't box ticking to do it. They wanted diversity of thinking and gender at that time. And they were very, very much at the forefront, I would say, of this discussion. And if it hadn't been for their thinking, I mean, I probably wouldn't have had those opportunities. And there were several of them, by the way, too. It wasn't just one or two. But the reality is governance ensures that whether you think that way or not, you take into account what your board is made up of, how diverse it is. And therefore, I would sort of say governance will get you there quicker, because the former is more, you have to wait for nature and the way people are brought up and what people think to change. And that does take quite a lot of time.
True. Women more than men have the ability to see what others don't do, what others won't. What skills do you think are inherent to women, and how do you think they add value to business?
I have to say, I feel uncomfortable with this question, and I don't want you not to ask it, but in my mind, I think it's very dangerous to attribute traits to gender, because I have seen men and women, and I don't even think you've got two boxes anymore. I think there's a spectrum of differences to do with gender, and really the trick is to try and find what are the qualities that I need on a team. You know, is it collaboration? Is it independence? Is it creative thinking? Is it financial? There's a mixture of both personal characteristics and physical experience that you need on any team. And you don't always want to hire in your own like as well. But I genuinely have spent more time trying to work out how to identify the innate qualities that come with an individual. So empathy, creative thinking, as I mentioned, as opposed to making sure it's a gender diverse. As a result, you always seem to end up with a gender diverse team. So I just would hate to put attributes to females that there are many males out there who have as well and are as good as or better, and vice versa. So it's about having the mixture of thinking at the board table, and inevitably, in my experience, when you've tried to do that and gone out of your own comfort zone of hiring in your like, you end up with a gender diverse group of people around the table.
So it's more of attributes than anything else. What is important to make it
specific? It's self-conviction, determination, hard work. I do believe all of that, and authenticity. Knowing what I think that is the most important thing, is knowing what you're good at and not being afraid to say, I'm good at that. That took me a number of years to get to that point of being confident, saying, yes, I'm actually really good at that. But also equally saying, you know what, I'm not so experienced in this way. I probably could get it if I spent another 10 years doing it, but I need some help. I need to make sure that my team is complementing where I'm not so good. And I have no issue in talking about the areas that I'm not good, as long as I know that I have a team of people around me who will be equally open about their strengths and weaknesses, and we can work then together on that. So attributes, I think, are common across gender. I don't think they are distinctive. Skills or traits, maybe.
You started your career with Wranglers in 1982, if I'm correct. When
Correct.
you reflect back today, what has been the most challenging part of your career?
Oh, wow. I think really I've always been a bit unsure about what I wanted to do, and in fact I still don't really know what I want to do when I grow up. I mean, but it was understanding that actually defined me, because I'm very widely curious. I don't like to be in one particular sector or labeled as one particular type of person. I've got a breadth. I'm probably jack of all trades, master of none, but that is who I am, and I can plonk into one industry and then into another and add value to it. But I think that was very challenging at the beginning, because you're always being asked, what's your strategy? What's your distinction? What's your strength? What's your point of differentiation? And I found that really, really hard to answer. And retrospectively, I realized that was my answer. Well, I don't have any particular. I'm good at this breadth, and I can, go into the unknown and create some structure and help you understand that. But it doesn't have to, it can be in a foreign country, or it can be in a different industry. So it took me quite some time to realize that what I was being asked to talk about sort of went counter to what I was actually really good at. It helps with hindsight, that. Hindsight is very palliative.
True. I still remember how much you inspired me and my batchmates when I met you in the leadership meet in Cambridge 2 years back. What is a message you would want to give the women leaders who want to make it to the top management?
It's funny, I was just talking to my first female boss about this, because we've obviously been through a similar period of time together. And I think what we see as the opportunities today, I don't think I've ever seen it more fertile for smart, hardworking individuals to take advantage of the opportunities out there. And the biggest thing is, there is, in my mind, so much less need to conform. Really, to succeed before, you sort of had to fit in, which in many respects meant conforming. And I think being yourself and being confident about yourself, what you are good at, what you're not good at, your traits, your personality, you don't need to change. In fact, don't change that. Stick with it, because that's where the diversity of thinking and being really comes to play. And although I don't look back and say I regret having conformed, it was necessary. I don't think I could have done what I did without doing that. I'm sort of having a renaissance now of just being me. I am who I am. And yeah, there's a degree of conformity in there, which I needed to do in order to succeed. But I'm finding it so much easier just to be me, to speak the way I want to do things in my way, and I just think I would love to start over again and see what other opportunities come up as a result of it. So I think that's, be yourself and be confident about that.
If you dream it, you can do it. Define success on your own terms. Achieve it by your own rules. Build a life you're proud to live. Susan, you're a true icon and a motivation to all of us. I feel honored and I appreciate you taking out time to join me. Wish you all success with all your future endeavors. Thank you.
And to you, Payal. Thank you for the time.